Hello everyone and welcome to the 17th Castlevania Symphony of the Night Developer's Diary. As well as giving a quick update on the Castlevania project, in this video I'll also be detailing my plans for the tutorials in 2023. One particular thing that involves not just the Castlevania game but also the tutorials is the issue of the level collision. Level collision tends to be one of the more difficult and complex things to code, but I know that many of the people who have been studying the tutorials are very interested in making their own side-scrolling platform games, and that's no surprise because after all, during this 16-bit era, that genre of games was probably the most popular. I've already had some form of level collision worked out since the very first Castlevania video, but my code since then has really evolved and been added to, and it started to get a bit messy. Plus, for anyone who played any of the demos at Christmas knows there are still quite a lot of bugs, so I thought that since I needed to produce a more clear set of code to teach for the tutorials to make it easy to follow, I thought I'd take the opportunity just to tighten things up to get rid of some bugs and so on. So that's what what you're seeing here on your screen is. Since I was starting this from scratch, I decided to have a bit of fun with the graphics, so I've taken some of the level design graphics from Castlevania Bloodlines and combined it with a little bit of Super Castlevania 4 in the form of Simon Belmont. And I think Simon is looking pretty good in these Mega Drive colours here. Some people have commented on the fact that he looks a bit smaller than he does in the Super Nintendo version. I haven't resized the sprite or anything. I guess it's just the Mega Drive's higher resolution that makes him look a little bit smaller here. If you've been watching this footage, you've probably noticed that I've been bug testing. So one of the bugs I had in some of the earlier versions of the game was this unintentional wall jumping technique, but I got rid of that in the other version a while ago, and thankfully it's not causing any problems here. Another issue we had with the previous version was these semi-solid platforms where you can jump up through them, but in lots of games you can fall down through them by holding down on the jump button, and that was pretty easy to implement, so it seems to be working fine here. And just above Simon right now is a moving platform. I had a few ideas of how this could be implemented, and I think my solution here is working pretty well. It seems to be not too buggy, and obviously we're going to have lots of moving platforms in the game, so I was glad to get this out of the way. I will almost certainly improve it in the future, but for now it's working pretty well. To the right of the moving platform you'll see some traditional 16-bit Castlevania steps. I haven't coded those yet, as I'm not sure that's going to feature in the Castlevania Symphony of the Night game because it doesn't have those kind of steps. It might be a fun challenge to do it in the future, but I think I'm going to leave it for now. There were quite a few bugs in the previous code, for example not being able to jump on the stairs sometimes, but one of the most annoying was this one where you when you jump too close to the edge of the platform you will snap up into place, but as you can see from this footage that seems to be fixed in this new version. Slopes are always one of the most tricky things to code in terms of level collision. You can easily get stuck at the top of the slope or at the bottom, and if I move up and down the slope very slowly here you'll notice little imperfections in the code that I need to iron out first, and once I have got it where I think it's almost perfect, then at that point I'll finally produce some lessons to teach you how to do this yourself. For anyone who's been paying attention to Pyron's social media in January will have noticed that he's been hard at work on doing some more graphics for the Marble Gallery. It goes without saying that I wanted to give them a try out in the game as soon as he sent them through to me, and this is the result. Oh, and I should say that the music you're listening to right now is from the PlayStation version of the game. The music for the Mega Drive version for this particular level isn't ready yet. For a quick comparison, here is the PlayStation original side by side with this Mega Drive version, albeit with Simon Belmont rather than Alucard, and I think it's looking very nice. The Mega Drive version has slightly brighter colours, and you can also see the difference in the resolution too. You can see more of the screen in the Mega Drive version. Just before we move on and look at the next section, I just want to have a quick talk about how this background was actually put together. I think that most people watching this channel already know that the Mega Drive has a master palette of 512 colours, from which when you actually create a game you have to choose 4 palettes of 16 colours, and then every sprite or every background tile can only use one single palette of 16 colours. Now this does create some restrictions, but of course there are always ways around this. In this particular instance, Pyron and we've created 2 background layers, so we have a foreground and a background, and we simply scroll them at the same time because this is an indoor scene, so it doesn't need any parallax scrolling. And we can layer one background on top of the other to create the effect. Now, I know people know that there is a Yuri Nevi 16 tile tool, and you might be wondering why we didn't just use that on a single background layer. Well, let me explain. For this example, let's focus on one single 8x8 background tile and see what kind of colours it's using. Since this particular tile is only using the 6 colours at the bottom of the screen, you might be wondering what the issue is here. After all, 6 colours is well below 16, so there shouldn't be a problem. However, remember that when we create a level, we have to create the 4 palettes of 16 colours each, and in this example the background is using this 16 colours and the foreground is using this 16 colours, with the first one of course just being a transparent colour so you can see into the background. Although this particular tile is only using 6 colours, those 6 colours are drawn from 2 different palettes, so in order to use those 2 different palettes within a single tile space, we have to use the background tile and we have to add a foreground tile on top of it, so together they can use both palettes. We also use a similar technique in the second section, and here is how it looks in the game. I was always a little concerned about how the Mega Drive would handle all those stained glass windows because they're very beautiful and they use lots of different colours, and I wasn't sure if the Mega Drive could handle it, but thankfully Pyron's done a great job on these, and I look forward to what he does with the stained glass windows in the Royal Chapel level too. And just for a quick comparison, here are the Mega Drive and the PlayStation versions. Especially when it comes to very vertical sections like this, I have to put a bit of extra effort in order to fill the screen on the Mega Drive version and make sure that it takes into account its higher horizontal resolution. In this case, my solution has been to add another row of bricks on the left and the right hand side, and also just to make the platforms themselves a little longer than they were in the PlayStation original. And as an aside, while I was filming this footage, I noticed that in the PlayStation original, when Alucard goes up a slope, he kind of slows down, and he speeds up a bit when he goes down the slope. It's faster than normal. So whereas in my one right now, it's the same speed whether you're going up or down. So that's very easy to fix, but it's something I need to fix the next time I go into that piece of code. As well as doing some work on the marble gallery, I've also been going back to the level 1 and level 2, the entrance and also alchemy lab levels, just to tweak some of the graphics as well as the backgrounds and also the enemy AI. And of course, now that we've got so many graphical assets for the marble gallery, I can really start designing that level too. Since I'm going to be getting really deep into the level design aspects of this game now, I thought it'd be a good chance to play Castlevania Rondo of Blood for the very first time, and I'm having a great time so far. It definitely seems to be the most difficult of the 4 16-bit Castlevanias on the consoles. I think that Super Castlevania 4 is probably the easiest. Bloodlines, in my opinion, is just right in terms of difficulty. This one, you have the jump where the NES jump in Rondo of Blood, where once you jump you really have to commit to it, but I'm really enjoying it so far. The fact that the whip is a bit constricted means that the sub weapons are more important than ever, and I'm also really enjoying the split pass through the game as well. It gives the game a real air of kind of mystery. You don't know if you fall down somewhere, whether you're going to die or just fall into a new place, and there could be lots of secrets hidden about. So I haven't looked at any guides or anything, so it's all brand new to me, so I'm going to have a lot of fun with this over the next couple of weeks. Okay, so before we go, I want to talk a bit about the tutorials coming up for 2023. So I've made a big emphasis in this video about the collision code and how lots of people want to make their own 2D scrolling game, and it's not just the level collision you need for that, but it's also how to put big maps into the game, and how to do the camera so it follows your player, and many other variables too. And lots of people also want to know how to use Yuri Nevi's 16 tile tool, because although it's a great tool, it is quite difficult to use at first until you get used to it. So there's probably material just in what I said there for at least 12 lessons. I think there's a lot to cover. I also want to cover just quickly how to play music on the Mega Drive, and also a very quick lesson on how to make some music and also sound effects too. So adding that all together, I think that'll be enough for 2023, and my plan is to front load the tutorials rather than space them out over the year. I want to get them all out in the first half of the year, and then they're out and people can make the games they want to make. And of course there'll be still a lot more to teach after that, but I think that's a a lot of stuff to get started on and to digest over the rest of the year, and that would leave me free to really focus on the Castlevania Symphony of Night project for the second half of the year. So I want to get a lot of those out in the next couple of months or 3 months, the tutorials, and I look forward to everyone see what everyone produces with them. Lots of maybe platformers and Castlevania style games from everyone else too. However, before we do all that, the very first lesson of 2023 will be quite a boring but a very practical and important one nonetheless. It will be how to update your SGDK. Now, SGDK 1.8 was released towards the end of last year. We've been using 1.7, I think, into the tutorials up until now. The improvements are probably not obvious to beginners, and they're not obvious to me, but it's great they're still being updated. And I noticed that maybe a couple of people have updated already, and apparently it does break a couple of things that we've taught in the tutorial so far to do with, I think, how the background scrolls and so on. Don't worry, it'll just be a couple of lines of code we have to change. So as well as teaching you how to upgrade the SGDK to the latest version, I'll also just show you how to make adjustments to make our old code still work as well. So that will be the first lesson of 2023. Okay, so I think that just about wraps things up for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in this kind of content, then please subscribe to the channel.
I'm interested in this.
And if you want to support the channel further, I have a Patreon account.
You won't go unrewarded.
And until next time,
farewell.